In other words, you'll get a coherent cast, not full of faults. Well, that's the theory.
And when you get the forecasting, that's when it's gone, when he hasn't done enough of that, is it?
Well, you can see by looking on the surface, because that's where it floats up to.
Yeah.
It floats on, he scrapes it off. He's now measuring the temperature accurately with a thermocouple. And the temperature that they use varies slightly. For small bells, they usually cast at a higher temperature. For large bells, a cooler temperature. Because as the bell metal goes into the molds are cold, of course. And so what they have to do is to actually heat the mould up with the molten bell metal as it goes in. He's got a new liner on his thermocouple. Five minutes wait, I suspect. Letting it cool a little bit. The moulds, as you can see, are buried in the ground. There's two reasons for that. One of which is, should the mould split when they're pouring? Unlike at other places, you don't finish it with boots full of molten bell metal. It's all contained in the ground. And the second thing is that because it's in the ground, it does actually cool down more slowly, which gives you a coarser crystal structure for the bell metal, which gives a better quality sound of bell when you actually tuned it up and everything else. Two more minutes, folks.
What are these big bells here then?
They're not bells.
They're
moulds.
moulds. Those are the moulds.
Yeah. They're iron cases. Those iron cases, we build up the moulds inside. The outer mould called the cope, and you can see some over the far side where the remains of some moulding materials in those. That's done down the far end. And so we, after the bell's been cast, we clean them off and re-mould material into there each time. Those cases were all produced about 1870 and still in regular use.
Amazing.
There are all sorts of sizes. As you can see, some larger ones here. The very largest one is out on the road at the moment, so to speak, not literally outside here, but it's out, the one that we used for casting Great Pool for many, well, until about 2 or 3 years ago, was round the back in the yard. It was in the centre of the marketplace in Loughborough on exhibition, and it's going to be on exhibition again at Queen's Park near the War Memorial Carrier on the other side of town. But the case itself weighed over 14 tonnes. Now what he's doing is pouring the metal in a second. They'll start tipping, and it'll go into that top pot. You'll see he's got a plug there that that metal bar is actually stopping the metal from running in yet, and then he'll slowly release it when he's got that top pot full. That means only bell metal is going in, there's not a lot of air. So he lifts that, lets the metal run, you can see it level going down even though it's pouring in. So we get a good coherent cast yet again. So it's pouring. So I didn't hear that.
What will be the weight of this bell?
That's a very good question. I'll tell you in a minute when I've seen what diameter it is.
This is a 6 bell, is that right?
Yeah, 6.
Yes, in which case it should be in the region of 600 or 700 weight.
Is it quite, it's quite far underground then, is it?
Well, if you look at the size of the cases just there, you can get some idea of how far it's buried. It's buried about 2/3 of the way into the ground.
Big old hole.
Right, what's he doing now?
Just topping up.
Oh, he's topping up, is he? There's always some metal left over, so what he's doing is taking that down and he's going to cast some ingots out of that. You never leave it in that crucible to set off, because if it does you never get it out again. So he's going down there, there's a mould maker over there, he'll pour that in there. What Dale's doing now is the bell metal is molten in that top pouring area. As the metal sets, it contracts, and so it sucks more bell metal in. If that vent at the top was, if the metal set off there, it would suck air in. So what he's doing is making sure that that vent at the top is open, so as the metal sets, more metal runs in, and you finish up with a bell that's all bell metal, not with holes and so on in it. And so he'll be doing that for about 20 minutes, making sure, but he'll be able to get the feel of it as the stuff begins to set off even at the top. And so he'll lift it up and he'll feel it getting higher and higher as he does that.
I'm not sure about his health and safety.
Down the far end you can see they're pouring the rest of that metal into that ingot mould, which is just there.
You can got steel take it.
It's available for... No, you've got
Yeah.
nothing on.
With bell metal being at over £10,000 a tonne, we don't waste much. Any stuff that's left over, those ingots will set off and they'll be used in the next cast.
The bell metal that's being used today, George, where would that have come from?
We buy our bell metal in as ingots of actual bell metal of the right proportions from a metal merchant in Birmingham.
Right.
And so it's 78% copper, 22% tin.
There won't be other bells being melted down that come from...
Sometimes we do use old bells as well, but as often as not, we don't make it all bell metal like that, old bells, because we're not sure of the composition. So we tend to use new metal with perhaps a little bit. You can see the remains of a broken bell upside down by that red plastic bucket there. And no, some of your old bells are not in these because they're in the works. In case you're wondering, but we'll take you and show you those in a little while.
Got his best trainers on.
You can see it's wobbling on the top surface, so it's still pretty molten there, but it will be setting off, and he will be able to feel when it's really tight that it's just about set, so he'll pull that iron rod out completely.